Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the Medlock Post radio show. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are those of the host and guests. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. And here is your host, Richard G. Medlock.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is the State of the Union address that Joe Biden will deliver in some form or fashion. I'm going to promise you this. It will be the most political, regurgitating speech you will ever hear. If it's anything like what he's been posting on Twitter and saying at news conferences or in front of the media, it's going to be politically regurgitating. They live in an alternate reality in Washington, D.C., especially the White House. Now, let me read from the United States Constitution, Article 2, Section 4. President, Vice President, and all civic officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, didn't the Democratic Marxists scream and yell this for 4 years at Trump? And they impeached him twice on trumped-up charges? Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, today, apparently there are no trumped-up charges against Mr. Biden. And this latest thing with the Chinese balloon, spy balloon, is one of them. I just wanted to bring that to your attention this morning. Greetings. This is the Medlock Post radio show. This is February 7th, 2023, episode 108, Leadership Lessons from Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, as we continue our tributes to Black History Month, we're not going to do it every day, but throughout the month, there's just a lot of things to talk about Black history, and like the caller said yesterday, it's American history because many Black African Americans contributed to a lot of successes in America and still do. They're still out there working hard, taking care of their families, and doing what's right. Getting up every morning, going to work, and they're part of our history. So, I saw this the other day before we get into Martin Luther King, and also we'll do something else before then. But I saw an article on CNBC, their website, and it was long COVID is a possible major reason for labor shortage in America. Let me repeat that. Long COVID is probably one of the major reasons for labor shortages in America. Now, at the time, I didn't click it up and read it, and I kept scrolling down, looking at things, and something came up. I had to go do something for about an hour, came back, and I wanted to pull that article up. On CNBC, it was nowhere to be found. I even tried to search for it under long COVID, labor shortage, etc. It was gone. But when I read that title, I asked myself a question. And you got to understand what the Democratic Marxists do here. Don't let a crisis go to waste, right? Are they going to turn people with long COVID into a disability, thereby getting federal disability and put them on Medicaid? It's just a question, folks, I'm asking. I don't know the answer, but that's the first one that popped in my mind. Are they going to turn long COVID into a disability? So, just another thing to look out for. Also, on February 7th, 1964, have you seen the headlines this morning? The Beatles arrived in America for the first time. Folks, that was big stuff. They were the hottest thing on the planet Earth in 1963, 64, and a few years after. The English invasion. They had invaded America again. So here they are, the Beatles in America. Then they were on Ed Sullivan's show, which was, I think, other than Elvis Presley, the most watched Ed Sullivan show, or one of the most watched TV shows in history. And yes, our family was sitting there watching this. Nobody was going to miss that show. And you can pull up YouTubes on all this stuff. Now, no, we're not going to play Beatles music today because there's certain people you don't play. Beatles, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, and Bing Crosby. You have to have special licenses to play them, and they're extremely expensive. So that's why I don't play any of those. I don't have enough sponsors and enough listeners to afford that license. All right. However, something else was going on back then. His name was Charley Pride. Charley Pride, country music artist, a black African-American country music artist. He was huge in country music. He is, to date, is probably I'm not going to say probably, the most successful African-American country artist. Number 2 at this point would probably be Darius Rucker. But Darius Rucker has a long way to go to pass Charley Pride. Now, Charley Pride's label was RCA. Who else was on the RCA label? That's correct, Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was their number one label. Guess who was their number two label? Charlie Pride. He was big. So let's take a listen to Charlie Pride. This is number one hit.
Biggest single I ever had, right? Whenever I chance to meet old friends on the street, thank you. They wonder how does a man get to be this way? Always got a smiling face, and anytime at any place. And every time they ask me why, I just smile and say, 'cause you got to kiss an angel good morning and let her know you think about her when you're gone. Kiss an angel good morning and love her like the devil when you get back home. So people may try to guess the secret of our happiness, but some of them never learn it's a simple thing. The secret I must speaking of is a woman and a man in love, and the answer is in this song that I always sing. 'Cause you got to kiss an angel good morning and let her know you think about her when you're gone. Kiss an angel good morning and love her like the devil when you get back home. Kiss an angel good morning and let her know you think about her when you're gone. Kiss an angel good morning and love her like the devil when you get back home. Woo!
Charlie Pride, Kiss an Angel Good Morning. We used to go around singing that all the time. Yeah, huge hit. Huge hit. Everybody loved that song. And a bunch of others that he did. Great artist, great representative of the African Americans in America. And we're proud of Charlie Pride. He died 2 years ago, sadly, of COVID at the age of 86. He and a few other great singing artists, even in country music, passed away because of COVID, and that's a sad thing. Martin Luther King, he's a great individual, peace-loving, had a mission to carry out. And he gave us, when we did a tribute to him last month, I played some sound bites, and I'm going to replay one today that fits in with this leadership lessons. And he calls them leadership and purpose. Leadership and purpose. And as I've gone through my career, and I used to do training at corporations, anywhere from leadership to communications, to team building, to team management of it is forgotten. They teach you how to do a team building and get the team built, but they don't teach you how to manage it. And that's probably a bigger component than putting it together. And so a lot of these things I'm familiar with, and he words them differently, etc. But we're going to go through some of these. These first are 10 quotes that I hope will be inspiring for you. And as we celebrate not only his legacy this month, but others that we'll get to during the month, their leadership, their tenacity, their peacefulness, understand these legacies. And this is why we should have these months in doing this. Number one, Whatever your life's work is, do it well. A man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better. Now, that's a high bar, isn't it? That no other man could do your job better. But he says your life's work, whatever your life's work is. Now, when we look at life sometimes, when we look, is it just our life? Is it our job? Is it our family? Is it the golf we play or the tennis or whatever our recreation is, boating or kayaking, whatever it is? But he says here, life's work. And when we look at life, it's a big picture, isn't it? There are different aspects of our life. It's not just one thing. So it's different aspects. And what he's saying here is, whatever your life's work is, do it well. It's like what we were always taught. Our dad, my brother and I, our dad would always say, do it right the first time so you don't have to do it again. Do it right the first time. All right, quote number 2. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. Now think of that for a minute. This goes back to the age-old question, are we shaped by our environment or our family? But genetics. How are we shaped? Well, the big picture is both. We're influenced by outside forces outside of our family. Our family influences us. If you go to church, you're influenced there. School influences you, and certainly way in the wrong way today in America. So we are not makers of history. We are made by history. And then what we do is, going back to number 1, whatever your life's work, do it well, that becomes history. Now, it might not go into the history books, but it goes into the books of your family. It might go into the books of where you work. It might go into the books of your friends and neighbors. It might go into the books of the charities that you worked at and supported and sustained. It might go into the books of that one homeless person that you helped. But that's where it goes. Number 3, if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. Let that one smack you upside the head, folks. If a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. Purpose, folks. We all have different purposes in life. We have a purpose as a father to provide for our family, as a mother to nurture the children, to teach them, to guide them, and along with the father in that area. What about the country? What about our country today? We've had many men and women in the past that were willing to die for what America stands for. And they did. And there are still those that are willing to put on that uniform and to die for this country and to die for freedom and for what it stands for, to die for the stars and stripes and what it represents. So if you basically, what Dr. Martin Luther King is talking about here, If you have no purpose in life, you're not fit to live. Now, this brings up a memory. But I'm going to have to mark where to come back to here. That was number 3. We're going to come back to number 4. Several years ago, on my previous radio program, one evening, we got a call from a young man out of New York. And I guess he was just searching the internet and found the program and decided to start listening to it. And he had listened to it 3 or 4 times and decided to call in. So we had this interesting conversation. Apparently we were talking about past times. And he said, Richard, when you were a kid without the internet and Wi-Fi and laptops, what did you guys do? And I had to keep from laughing. I really did. This kid was 19 years old. It was probably about 9-10 years ago. And I said, that's an interesting question. I don't remember the gentleman's name. I said, but we had our imagination. We had the outside. I says, we had 3 channels on TV, and most of the time there was really nothing worth watching, especially in the daytime until after school when you had some shows on, Superman, Lone Ranger, and stuff like that, cartoons. But I says, we used our imagination. We went out and played cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers. We went out in fields and we dug up forts. We made up things. We went and ran in the creek. We went fishing, and on and on. And the guy was just amazed. He's from New York, let me remind you. And I said, how old are you? And he told me he's 19 years old. And I said, are you in college? He says, oh no. I said, I don't want to go to college. I says, well, what are your goals in life? I said, what do you want to achieve? He says, I've achieved everything. He says, I live with my parents. I have my laptop, Wi-Fi, video games, and marijuana. And he says, that's all I need. I don't need anything else. That sums up quite a bit about a couple of generations, doesn't it? Not all of them. I have my Wi-Fi, laptop, video games, and marijuana, and I don't need anything else. I was speechless. For a few seconds, I just, whoa. But we went on and we had a very nice conversation. I didn't put him down or anything. It's not going to prove anything. We just had a nice conversation. And he liked the show. He said, I like your message. And I says, well, keep listening. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he found a purpose from listening to the program. I don't know. Number 4 from Martin Luther King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are here as a human being to help others, to serve them, to lift them up, to be there. Sometimes it's just to sit there and listen. Somebody just needs to vent. But he asks a question that he says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? A little bit of reflection going on there, right? How much do you give to the community? Do you serve in your church? That's one thing just to go to church on Sunday and then walk away from those teachings the rest of the week and then come back, apply those teachings to your life. Serve others. Number 5, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote sonnets. Poetry. Sonnets and poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Now that's going back to number 1. Whatever your life's work, do it well. He's saying here, street sweeper, janitor, an engineer, an architect. But it doesn't matter what position you have, do it well. Are you a good scoutmaster or a Girl Scout leader? Are you a good neighbor? Are you the best neighbor on the block? I don't know if I can say that. I try to be. These are things we try to improve on. But I like this. All hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Little things to inspire you and give you some things to think about. Number 6, all labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. Do you see a theme through all this about leadership and purpose? Do it well, be the best, do it with painstaking excellence. All labor lifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. Now, there are people out there that are trying to destroy humanity and its dignity. I'm sure you're thinking of one that I'm thinking of right now. And it starts with an A. Takes away human dignity when we murder innocent life. Takes away human dignity when a government destroys your way to earn a good living and provide for your family. But we have to overcome those things. Number 7, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Now, when I read that, and I've read it many times through the years, I think of Christ and what he went through and how they caused him to suffer and even drink vinegar, and how the scriptures say he bled from every pore, taking on the pains and sins that you and I cause. We cause those things, that suffering on Christ. But I think of that. Where do you stand at times of challenge and controversy? Look how Christ handled his time of challenge and controversy. Can we measure up to some semblance of humility when we go through challenges and controversy? Can we hold ourselves, our dignity, no matter what? That's what he's saying here. The ultimate measure. Or do we just back down so we won't have heartache, or pain. Number 8, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. So this says what I do is going to affect somebody else, even indirectly. Corporation does, what a government does, what a homeowners association does, what bad police do, what good police do. It affects, it has a ripple effect, doesn't it? So when you think about the interactions that we have with other human beings, are we contributing to lifting them up? Are we contributing to helping their human dignity remain intact and hopefully to grow? Are we, in our actions, doing positive things that in the long run will help others? It almost becomes an interdependency, doesn't it? Not a codependency, but an interdependency. Such great wisdom we have here from Martin Luther King. Number 9, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. The scriptures say, don't run faster than you're capable. This is saying pretty much the same thing. But you keep moving. What's the old adage? When is it over? When have you failed? When you fall down and don't get back up. If you fall off the horse, what's the best thing to do? Is get right back on. Get rid of that fear. Life is nothing but challenges. And we're going to have good days and we're going to have bad days. Some days we can run. Some days we walk. Other days, we got to crawl. But we keep moving forward. Number 10, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must strengthen our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent. Let me read that again. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man can't ride you unless your back is bent, unless you give in to those challenges. He tells us this, folks. Great lessons here. Keep your standards. All right, let's listen to this soundbite from Martin Luther King. It's just over 2 minutes, but it's full of just wisdom.
This is the most important and crucial period of your lives, for what you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine which way your life shall go. And the question is whether you have a proper, a solid, and a sound blueprint. And I want to suggest some of the things that should be in your life's blueprint. Number 1 in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody. Always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth. And always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Secondly, in your life's blueprint, you must have as a basic principle the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. Once you discover what it will be, set out to do it and to do it well. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Finally, in your life's blueprint must be a commitment to the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal staff. We must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.
Ladies and gentlemen, dignity, excellence, purpose. Short message, but full of wisdom. These are things that we can learn from Martin Luther King. Now, we're not through with Martin Luther King, but we're going to take just a little bit of a short break here and listen to Otis Redding.
I've been loving you too long to stop now. You're tired and you want to be free. My love is growing stronger as you become a habit to me. Ooh, and loving you too long. I don't want to stop now. Oh. With you, my life has been so wonderful. I can't stop now. And your love is growing old. My love is growing stronger as our affair grows old. I've been loving you oh too long to stop now. I've been loving you a little too long. I don't want to stop now. Don't make me stop now. Please don't make me stop now. I love with all my heart, and I can't stop now. Please, don't make me stop now.
Otis Redding. I've been loving you too long. I played that for my wife at our 40th wedding anniversary, too. She started to cry. I think I did, too. So, Otis Redding, great soul music. We've lost a lot of great artists through the years. Early, tragically, plane crashes, many of them. I saw the other day it was the anniversary of Buddy Holly when he went down in a plane crash. He really introduced rock and roll. It wasn't Elvis Presley, it was Buddy Holly. Back to Martin Luther King. We did 10 quotes that hopefully inspire us to move forward. And yeah, I got a text. I will put these up on my blog. I'll make a note, add to blog. So I'll put these up. They're worth it. And these other things. 3 important leadership lessons from Dr. King. Now this was in the 50s and 60s. But they're just as important today because they were based on truth. Truth never changes, folks. And plus, he was inspired by studying the scriptures and praying and turning to Christ and following his faith. Lesson number 1, leadership lesson. You must have total commitment to your cause. King was a visionary. He was a man who had a dream bigger than the times in which he lived. That is, after all, what real visionary leaders are all about. His I Have a Dream speech brought about awareness and humanity to the national consciousness about civil rights in America. And that was a big thing, folks. King's stance on political activism in a non-violent way made him a natural leader and an inspirational figure. He led a social movement of equality during a time when it wasn't supported by most. In fact, he was threatened and despised by many. But he stayed committed to the vision he held. Sadly, his leadership and dream ultimately cost King his life. And that's another lecture within itself. Even when we knew his cause was unpopular and his life was in danger, King remained committed to his vision. He was arrested upwards of 25 times and assaulted at least 4 reported times. Here are some questions to ponder here. Are you bringing that kind of total commitment to your cause? It doesn't have to be a political cause. It could be a religious cause, a family cause. Whatever your cause is. Cause to better yourself, to better your position at work, to better your company that you own. Now, we're not saying you should get arrested, but are you bringing that level of intensity and dedication to your work that King and other great leaders did? That level of intensity and dedication. Are you bringing it? Every day. King also required his leadership team and followers to participate in non-violent protest. The people came to him, oh, let's go throw bricks or burn this. He stopped it. He felt strongly that violence, even for their cause, was not just. And he was right. But you have, sadly, leaders out there today, white and black, calling for violence. That's the only way to get what you want. No, yeah, get what they want, but not good for anybody else. They're not uplifting humanity's dignity. Let's put it that way. Now, here's a question. How are you ensuring your values sync up with your actions? How are you ensuring your values sync up with your actions? Another self-reflection question. And only you can answer that. Now, I love vision because we taught vision and we taught legacy in our leadership training and courses. Vision. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Those are great words, folks. And what we're going to do when we get through with Martin Luther King here, we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 29. Now, if you want to pull it up when we get there, Proverbs 29 in the Old Testament, I use the King James Version. So, for your reference. Leadership Lesson 2. Disrupting the status quo is essential for change. King is honored and revered today, but he wasn't embraced by society during his short life. However, King knew that his dream of equality, even when equality was not popular, was more important than the status quo. You get that picture, folks? You put the bigger picture, the bigger value that's bigger than you, much bigger than you, ahead of you. We don't see that today in a lot of leaders. It's all about them. King's actions backed his vision, and he shook up the popular culture of the time. Sometimes doing things completely different is what's necessary for evolution and innovation. Yeah. I talk about there's no bad ideas. You've heard me on this show talk about that. You throw out ideas. You talk about them. How's it going to work here? What part of it's good? Is all of it good or part of it? How does it fit in with the vision we're trying to achieve? Instead of walking into, how many of you gone into a meeting and the leader stands up there, the so-called leader, and says, okay, we're here today to talk about how we're going to do things my way. How many have gone into meetings like that? Yeah. They don't want to listen to anybody else. They're the most important person in the room. And once they put themselves on that pedestal, people stop listening. When I would go into these classes, most of these classes, depending on what it was, but most of the classes, I would go in, I'm sitting there with CEOs and CFOs and sales managers and all these people that have achieved a lot. And they're sitting there going to be looking at me for answers. And I says, I'm here today because your cumulative knowledge is greater than mine. So my role today is to learn from you, from your experiences, from your knowledge, from your volume of information that you've gone through and your experiences. And I had people after class tell me, says, I loved when you did that because you just leveled the playing field. Says we've had other instructors come in here and they were Mr. or Miss It. They knew it all and they're going to tell us everything we need to know. They said, you did it, but you had us doing it with each other. There's a big difference, folks, and that goes in any just about anything you do. These paradigm shifts are crucial in every aspect of social, cultural, and technological change. The same way of thinking always wields the same results. And we'll go further, the same kind of thinking that got us into the problem will not get us out of the problem. It's called insanity. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. King never accepted that just because things were a certain way, it made them the right way. Understand that. Just because things are done a certain way doesn't mean it's the right way. Now, do we always look at building a better mousetrap? Yeah. How do we improve things? Sometimes we got to tear a wall down to expand a building. So here are some questions. How can you shake up the status quo in your life, in your industry, in your business, maybe in your family? How about in your corporate culture or business values? Or your family values, your religious values? Be a leader and set the new standard by changing an outdated status quo in your life. Some interesting challenges, folks. Leadership lesson 3. Have a dream. Then communicate it and do it. King said, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. And that's when he was giving his address, the Washington Monument, in front of 250,000 people and millions on TV. The I Have a Dream speech. He had a dream, and he couldn't be silent about it. So here are some questions. How effective is a dream if you aren't communicating it? Do you have a vision for yourself, your family, your company, your job? Where's that vision? Is it prominently displayed so your family, your staff, others can see it? Do you talk about how your actions, campaigns, and products back up that vision? Dreaming without doing is for childhood. Real leaders have big dreams, take big steps to communicate them, and then they go take big actions. Ronald Reagan. He was a great communicator, and then he fulfilled what he said he was going to do. King's actions made him one of the greatest leaders in the 20th century. Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1963 and Nobel Prize winner in 1964. So the final question here. How do you plan to turn your dreaming into doing? Turn your dreaming into doing. Let's go now to Proverbs 29. I quoted verse 18 earlier about vision, but there's some other great counsel in this chapter. There's a lot of great counsel that we can learn in the Bible. In chapter 29, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. The righteous consider the cause of the poor. A fool speaks all that is in his mind. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So let's go here. Verse 1, he that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. Ooh, my. Ooh, okay. Verse 2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Is this verse describing the difference between capitalism and a constitutional republic versus communism? Sure sounds like it. Did the founding fathers understand this verse? Did they understand all of Proverbs chapter 29? I think they did. I think a lot of what they did was based from Proverbs chapter 29. Verse number 3, whoso loveth wisdom rejoiceth his father, but he that keepeth company with harlots spendeth his substance. That's self-explanatory, isn't it? 4, verse 4, the king by judgment established the land, but he that receiveth gifts overthroweth it. So if the king starts taking bribes, the land gets overthrown. What does that bring to mind? Verse 5, a man that flatteneth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his feet. A man that flattereth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his feet. Yeah, flattery will get you everywhere but nowhere. Verse number 6, in the transgression of an evil man there is a snare, but the righteous doth sing and rejoice. Why? Because the righteous, they don't have any guilt feelings. They've tried to repent of what they've done wrong. But in the transgressions of an evil man, there is a snare. And it gets bigger and bigger the more you transgress. Verse number 7, the righteous considereth the cause of the poor. The wicked regardeth not to know it. How can we apply that to today? Who's out there helping the poor and the needy? It's churches. It's good people in the community. But the wicked regardeth not to know it. Now, do the wicked just talk about it, and then what they do basically takes away human dignity? Is that what we're talking about here? Could be. Could be welfare programs that do not get people out of poverty. Verse number 8. Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath. We could take that verse and start comparing mayors, governors, even presidents, rulers of governments around the country, around the world, and apply that verse. Wow. Verse 9, if a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. That is true. Don't argue with a fool, folks. You just lower yourself down to their level. They're not going to come up. Verse number 10, the bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. Do we see bloodthirsty people in America today? People that their hearts have turned cold, that have no regard for human life? You answer that, folks. Verse 11, a fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. Great words. Verse 12, if a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked. Verse number 12 applies to whose administration? The current administration. Folks, this is why we do the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. Verse 13, the poor and the deceitful man meet together. The Lord lighteneth both their eyes. Isn't that interesting? The poor and the deceitful man. The Lord is watching over us. Number 14, the king that faithfully judgeth the poor, his throne shall be established forever. Faithfully, with equality, with justice. That's what we used to do in America. 15, verse 15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. So all you people out there that are against spanking a child, right here it says to do it. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left alone. How many children do we see out there that have no respect for authority because they learned it from their parents, because their parents don't have it, or they haven't been disciplined? They're not going to learn this in the schools now. Verse 16, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. The righteous, I stay on that side, folks. Verse 17, correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give thee delight unto thy soul. Isn't that great? Correct thy son. Here's the right path here, kid. You want to stay here. Verse 18, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Remember, Cicero talks about natural law, the law of the Creator. That's the law we're talking about here. Verse 19, a servant will not be corrected by words, for though he understand, he will not answer. All right, let me get through the rest of these. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? There is more hope of a fool than him. He that delicately bringeth up his servant from a child shall have him become his son at the length. An angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression. Whoa, angry men and furious men. We see those out there, don't we? Men and women. Well, that's what they're referring to here. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Dr. King talked about this. Whosoever is partner with a thief hateth his own soul. He heareth cursing and bewrayeth it not. You want to ride with the devil? Then you're gonna see and hear the worst. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. Many seek the ruler's favor, but every man's judgment cometh from the Lord. An unjust man is an abomination to the just, and he that is upright in the way is abomination to the wicked. Oil and water, folks, they don't mix. That is Proverbs chapter 29. And keeping with our standard here, and this is a great one, folks. This is Ray Charles.
loved in liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refined, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties. The fruited plain. But now wait a minute. I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed His grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, He did. Any brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You see, my God, He done shed His grace on thee. You ought to love Him for it, 'cause He crowned that good. He told me He would. Every brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I thank you, Lord.
Oh, wow! We're going to. That's part of our music list now. Been meaning to put it in there. And that, chills up and down your spine, folks. That's just what that brings. So, a lot of things going on. That I could go on another hour here today, folks, but we don't really have that much time because I think what's happening here is that's the sound here, folks, that we need to start wrapping things up. That the background is entitled American Flag. I want to end with this poem that goes with what we've talked about here today, the leadership values that Martin Luther King gave us. Sadly, it's an unknown author, and it's entitled One. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald spring. One smile can bring a friendship. One hand can lift a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation. One sunbeam can light a room. One candle can wipe out darkness. One laugh can conquer gloom. One hope can raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can wake up everybody. One life can make the difference. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, one. It starts with me. It starts with me today to make a positive difference, to uplift humanity with dignity. That's where it starts, with one. May we keep this in mind as we go forth and apply positive principles in our lives. And that, folks, is a Medlock Post radio show for today, February 7th, 2023. Have a great day. And may God bless America.